The first shall be last, and the last shall be first. How often have you used that expression or heard it being used? I use it all the time in appropriate situations. But when it was first said in today's gospel and in another place, it meant a little bit more than a simple adage. The first occasion that we hear it in the scriptures is when the rich young man comes and asks Jesus, "What should I do to enter into the kingdom of God?" And Jesus says, "If you want to be perfect, give up all your possessions and follow me." And he walks away. And Jesus explains how hard it is to come into the kingdom of God for those who are rich. Because the rich were seen as first and above all. And so he said, the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. And the second time he uses it is when the mother of two disciples come and asks Jesus, "Can you put my sons on your left and on your right?" And he says, "That's not mine to give." And again, he says, the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. But in the New International Bible, it makes a nice way of translation that makes it very clear. It says, "He who should make himself servant of all." He who makes himself servant of all shall be first of all. The last shall be first. It's a choice, you see. It's a decision that we make ourselves. Do we want to be servant of all? That's an essential question for us all. Jesus made that decision, made that choice when he came into the world, not as one with power or riches or influence, but he came to us poor. He emptied himself of all that was of God to become even like a slave, the most poor in society. And he lived that throughout his life. Jesus became servant and stayed servant. Even when tempted in the desert, "Oh, all this world can be yours, all of its greatness," he refused it. He stayed as servant. And yet, he did great things. He changed the world. So that may be a clue for us. If we want to do good things, great things for the Lord, then maybe that's the choice we need to make ourselves. To become servant of all. Become servant of Christ. To choose poverty. And what do I mean by poverty? I mean our inner poverty. Our knowledge that we can't do anything great for the Lord until we become servant of the Lord, of God. "Not my will be done, but yours," was the prayer Jesus gave us. That's the prayer that we can make our own. Jesus was servant, and he did great things. And he said, "Do as I did, and you will even do greater things than I." You see how humble he wants? He doesn't even want to do the greatest things. He wants you and I to do the greater things. You'll do greater things than I did. He still wants to be humble. He wants to be poor compared to others. Put me last. And he never gave up. He wants to put us first. And how do we become first? Make ourselves last of all. Lord, make me a pencil you can write on. Make me an instrument of your peace. That seems to be the clue that makes it all possible. If we want to do great things for the Lord, then let us become servant of the Lord. So here's a spiritual exercise for us to do today at the end. Describe a time when you acted as servant, when God was then able to use you to do something good, We all have those moments we're proud of and say, wow. But sometimes we take credit. We say, didn't I do good? And we fail to say, maybe the Lord was able to utilize my talents and my gifts. Maybe the Lord called me at that moment and I heard and I chose to be servant. Write that moment down, at least get it into your head. Find your partner, your prayer partner today, and tell them of your moment when, because you were servant, you did great things for the Lord. Good luck in your conversation, and of course, God's blessings.